Hello, this is PJ Caposey, Superintendent of Schools for Meridian 223, discussing the FY19 audit findings and comments. The audit was completed by Benning Group LLC. To ensure transparency in the communication, when we post this publicly, we will also post the written audit so you can confirm those findings. And I will also secure a note of support for this recording by Benning LLC to ensure that it accurately represents what they shared with us about what we can do better in terms of our process and procedure. We had a handful of findings this year. Overall, the commentary from Benning was that we continue to improve in terms of our internal controls and procedures. In activity funds, we ran into one hiccup. Activity funds is typically a finding. I think that, again, if you looked at our peer group of schools, activity funds is always an area of concern. What Benning noted is that there was improvement. However, there was a time where somebody issued a reimbursement check to themselves and they were the signer. It didn't mean there's any impropriety or fraud. It just means the person that was the custodian of the account was also the person that was getting reimbursed. And simply when that occurs, we have to have a second signature on the check. So overall, the procedures were fairly clean, but still some minute details that we need to pay better attention to. Our grant expenditure reports. So our grant expenditure reports are what we turn in to ISB through IWAS, and what we did is we classified too many expenditures as grant expenditures, which in the long run doesn't really change anything because you only get the amount that's due to you in the grant, so you can't overclaim and then over-receive. The issue for us is that there are a handful of expenditures that we're going to pay partially for out of grants and partially for out of general funds. A couple of times those codings did not get recorded as such. Everything was put into the grant, bringing us over a little bit. So again, this has nothing to do with net money. This is just a coding or process issue. Of economic interest, all board members and administrators within a district that's government funded needs to turn in the responses to a handful of questions that are posed to them by the county. We had 5 members, 3 board members and 2 LT members that did not complete or completed after the deadline. So next year we will need to make sure we take the steps to ensure this doesn't happen. I think quite simply, we just take the 5 minutes that's necessary at a board meeting, fill it out, and we turn it back in at that time to ensure that we get it done on time. The employer's contribution and wage report, there was discrepancies between what was on our ledger and what was on some state reporting. This is an internal issue that occurred, and to be quite honest, I don't have a good explanation for it. Our ledger is correct. What we expended is what we expended, so the actual money is fine. I don't know why it wasn't represented appropriately in the state reporting. So Benning is coaching us through. As you may know, we have had a transition in the HR office, which is who would submit and create these reports. So we're trying to diagnose what that error was. Holding payments. So this was talked about publicly at our, I think, April and May and potentially our June board meeting. We approved a tremendous amount of work to get done this summer, roughly $1 million on almost 100 different line items of projects. And we wanted to ensure, again, because the audit takes in consideration everything that was expended between July 1 and June 30 of a given year, we wanted to ensure that the expenditures happened on the last fiscal year just for reporting purposes. So we issued checks and held them until work was completed. This is an accounting no-no. So in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't impact us because it doesn't impact our cash flow or the amount of money we have in the bank. The only thing it impacts is how it looks on the audit, and then we got dinged for it. So that's kind of how it goes. Our liability accounts. This was a major finding last year. We were there was something in our system that was triggering a dispensing of. So there wasn't any actual money changing hands, but the way that it was being calculated within our computer system, there was money floating into liability accounts that we couldn't exactly tell where it was coming from or how it was. We fixed the problem that had existed for literally years in October of this year. So that's awesome. The issue is that the problem still existed in July, August, and September, and into the early process of October. So we had a quarter of the year where we still had these liability account issues. The good news is that this problem is now fixed. The bad news is that since it existed for a quarter of the year, we have a finding. Transportation claim issue. This was, again, the same issues that ISB found when they came in and audited us. It was a 1-year mistake, of which we did not do things appropriately. We are receiving coaching right now from Benning on how to ensure these things do not happen. And the biggest issue for us is that we had $1 million in miscoded funds. All of this kind of miscoding occurred from May forward. And this was a result of having a positive financial year and then trying to expend a lot of money within that fiscal year in order to, again, show that the money was expended on FY19 and to have the audit in some ways look a certain way to represent appropriately to the community. This is my error. So largely what this means is that I put all of our directors, principals, and office staff under incredible amount of pressure, where things were coming in at an incredible rate trying to make sure things get done. And so what happened is that some of our processes and procedures kind of bent under the pressure there, and that was as a result of the pressure that I applied to it and kind of this stress test. Additionally, unfortunately, obviously with Brian's passing, we lost some internal controls that way as well. So those all sound like excuses. The reason I share that is simply because our processes aren't broke. They worked perfectly fine for 10.5 months last year, and they're working fine again. It was just the pressure and the stress that I put them under at the conclusion of the year. We did not have the capacity to hold, and that had to be a learning lesson for me. So thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this. If you have any questions, as always, you can contact me at my cell phone, 815-980-0310, or at my email, pcaposey, PCAPOSEY, @mail.meridian223.org. Thank you, and make it a great day.